Hey YouTube, it is League turnover today. It is Ultra League and Jungle Cup, Great League. So a Great League with a few typings, which is nice. Normal, Grass, Electric, Poison, Ground, Flying, Bug, and Dark. So definitely a lot of options here. Gligar and Stunfisk banned. So with these sort of things, it's not as easy as like Open Great League. You kind of know the meta. Two or three typing leagues, you know the meta because you can just be like, oh, this one like I think there was like a grass, water, fire, and it's like, oh yeah, like this one like has an advantage overall, like water has an advantage overall, sort of thing, because like water could be ice and stuff like that. When you have like what did I say, 8 typings here or whatever, it's a little trickier because you need to like figure out what the meta is going to be. So you can either just do one of two things: look at PVPoke rankings, which we are going to do in a second, or you can kind of work backwards and just look at like, okay, there's so many in, what is not in. Um, so the first thing I noticed that's not in, when I actually, not that I noticed, but when I went through the rankings, fairy is not one of these. So a lot of the time, so dark is, but fairy is not. And there's very, very few fairies in this. So like dark is, there's quite a lot of high ranked dark on this. Um, Fighting is not on this, right? So stuff like, is there steel on this? There's no steel on this, but like things that are weak to fighting potentially have higher. Like there are, as you're going to see in the rankings, there are a couple like steel things. So that's kind of how you work backwards. The other option is just to go to PVPoke rankings and see what's going on. And it's funny because like steel's not on this. Hello, Steelix 1, 2, and Skarmory 3, right? So anything that can get in with their secondary typing, Steelix with the ground, Skarmory with the flying, secondary typings, it really comes into play here. So again, with lack of fighters, Steelix pretty good. Dragons weren't on the list, but there are a couple dragons on this list. So you have the Dragon Tail, damage. Fairies aren't in this, right? So you don't need to worry about the fairies as much. Steel isn't one of them, right? So when you have a Dragon Tail fast move, and fairy isn't in this, and steel isn't one of the typings, like those aren't, again, they could be in there, but they're not one of the typings. You're gonna see a lot less of them, which makes you better. Crunch, Psychic Fangs, just lower their defense or coverage move and crunch. Skarmory, again, once it got Steel Wing, it was always one of the better ones. There are some electric Lantras in here. Togedemaru, Stunfisk got 10. We're going to talk about in a minute. So there are some electric, so just cover your weakness. We're going to use that. 4 and 5, Clodsire and Vigoroth are two of the best safe swaps in this meta. Vigoroth, when Vigoroth's in a limited meta, it's always one of the best safe swaps. Plus, fighting is not one of the typings, so Vigoroth only weak to fighting. You know, not to be don't be surprised if Vigoroth is everywhere. Clodsire is an interesting one because I like using Clodsire even in the Open Ultra League with Stone Edge Earthquake. So nice coverage. You have the ground for like the Steelix number 1. You have the Stone Edge for like when you get to like Abomasnow at 6. And just both are hard hitting moves and you're bulky. So Clodsire is one that I really, really like using. Abomasnow at 6'11". I don't actually think I put Abomasnow on a team, but when I was putting teams together, every single thing had like Abomasnow as a weakness, right? Because you have Flyers and Mandibuzz. You have Stunfisk, that's a ground. You have Gliscor, which is flyer ground. You have Swampert and Quagsire as your mud boys. You have Guzzlord as a dragon. Right? Swilus as a dragon. Like Abomasnow has a ton of. I didn't put it on a team. Abomasnow has a ton of coverage. Did I put it on a team? I don't think so. If you're going to use Abomasnow, just cover your. I mean, fire, sure, but I think your main weakness is going to be like Vigoroth that you need to worry about. So Abomasnow definitely one to watch out for. And then I'll just do the dark team though, some of the dragons. Mandibuzz, Zweilous, Guzzlord, 3 in the top 20 again. And some of these are doubles, right? So it's probably like top 15. And it's because, like I said, Fairy is banned, which gives you a huge, not banned, sorry. There's Fairy typing is not one of the main typings. So if you're a Fairy, the only way you're getting in was with the secondary typing. So without a lot of Fairies, stuff like Mandibuzz, Guzzlord, Zweilous have a little more freedom. And Guzzlord, Zweilous also weak to fighting. Fighting, not one of the main typings. So a little more freedom for those Pokemon in this meta. Quagsire is one of the Clodsire, Quagsire. I feel them both super, super strong as safe swaps, just in general, right? Quagsire benefits from only being weak to grass, right? So when you only have one weakness, and again, Abomasnow's on this list, but I was looking through the grass. There's not a ton of grass on this list either. So Quagsire could be one very, very safe Pokemon that you can use as a safe swap. Skarmory I already touched on. Stunfisk. Galarian Stunfisk is banned. The regular Stunfisk Unova is not. Electric Ground, right? So you have the Ground for Steelix. You have Electric for Skarmory. You have Ground for Clodsire. You have Electric for Mandibuzz. It's just one of those Pokemon that also seems to cover a lot of the meta. Is very, very Mudshot, Mud Bomb, Discharge is very, very spammy if you've never played with it before. So I think Stunfisk is going to be kind of a sneaky one in this meta. Mantine, again, there's a couple electric. There's Stunfisk and there's Lantern, so those are the ones you really got to watch out for. But again, with not a lot of just pure steals in this, you have a little more freedom with your Wing Attack or your Ice Beam combo here. Swampert to Swampert, right? We don't need to talk about how the Mud Boys. It's funny because Quagsire, generally a higher Mud Boy that you would use. Swampert's still super good, right? Mudshot Hydro Cannon combo, you cannot go against that. Altaria, I didn't even talk about Altaria, but Altaria gets in as the flying type, but again, it's mostly it's focused on its sort of like Dragon Breath damage, so put it in the same sort of Guzzlord, Swilus idea that fairies are banned and not. I should stop saying banned because they're not banned. Fairies and steels are not one of the main typings. Again, they could be in here because of secondary typings, but not one of the main typings. Lickitung Stay Swap, obviously. You know what Lickitung is. Piloswine. Piloswine's an interesting one, and I think it's because if you look at the list, there's an okay amount of things that are weak to ice, right? I think Abomasnow provides you more coverage because it is also got that grass component, which is very strong overall. But Piloswine, like if you need ice in a pinch for all these dragons and flying type Pokemon, Piloswine's a decent answer, and it has that ground option as well. And then Gliscor, if Gligar is banned, what's a nice substitute for that? Your evolution. Okay, so I basically started with just 3 Pokemon that I don't even know if the team fully makes sense, but Steelix because that's the #1 ranked Pokemon, Vigoroth because the #1 ranked safe swap, and then Swampert just because if you do get up against like Dragon Tail is resisted, but if you against like a fairy or against another steel, Swampert just kind of provides you the overall coverage for that. And again, Abomasnow is going to kill Swampert, but you'll beat with Vigoroth quite easily, and then Steelix is close matchup. The thing with Steelix is, unless there's like a fairy that resists everything, that resists the Dragon Tail, your neutral Dragon Tail plus your lowering their attack with Psychic Fangs or hitting for Crunch is going to do great. Overall in this meta, right? And Vigoroth's going to do sweet as well. And Swampert's just generally safe as long as it's not a grass. So just 3 essentially safe Pokemon that can deal a lot of damage in this meta. Then I went to Skarmory because Skarmory is #2 on this list. And of course, Skarmory is going to dominate everything that isn't electric, right? Lantern and Charge Bug is going to kill that. So I put in Clodsire to answer your electric weakness, and it's one of the best. So it's such a hard answer to electric, and it's one of the best safe swaps. So put in those 2 as like a safe swap, and then looking for a third, and this is where you're going to start getting into all the other. I really do think that Mandibuzz, Swilus, Altaria are all going to be very, very strong in this meta. So I put in Swilus as the third, just because I basically have kind of 2 answers for any sort of like fighter in Clodsire and Skarmory, so I'm not too worried about that fighting weakness. Plus, both are poison and steel, which are great answer to fairies. So you really have a lot of coverage for Swilus with the other 2. Oh, I do have a Abomasnow. Yeah, okay, that's good. Quagsire, Charizard, Abomasnow. This is kind of like an A, B, like it's just a one of everything. You have a water, you have a grass, and you have a fire. So it's kind of RPS from that perspective. It's not bad in the fact that there's not a lot of grass in Quagsire. Like Clodsire is a pretty good safe swap in this meta. And they also say Charizard is a safe swap. I don't love Charizard as a safe swap. I prefer Clodsire as a safe swap. Abomasnow and Charizard obviously going to cover each other's weaknesses. Charizard weak to electric, Charizard weak to water. Obviously Abomasnow is going to deal with that. Abomasnow is going to struggle with fighters, and Charizard is going to deal with that, and Clodsire's Quagsire safe swap. So it's a pretty balanced team from that perspective. Abomasnow though, yes, it has the losses against Vigoroth and stuff, but look at those hard X's. You're going to kill Stunfisk, Altaria, Swampert, Quagsire, Whiscash. Like there's a lot that Abomasnow can deal with in this limited meta. So I'm interested to definitely test it out. I'm pretty sure this is on next week as well. So at least there's a lot of options. At least not like a 3 typing cup for on for 2 weeks. At least there's like 7 or 8 typings in this meta. So it's pretty open. Mandibuzz, Lickitung, Stunfisk. This is again a pretty balanced team. Just like, well, you are double weak to ice here. So Abomasnow is an issue. But with Mandibuzz, you can kind of just like stay in and ship with the Dark Pulses, and then Lickitung can like take it the rest of it out. So it's not bad from that perspective. But yeah, I think Mandibuzz Dom is strong just because it's strong in general. But again, like I said, not a lot of fairies in this meta. Lickitung is just a good save swap overall. And then Stunfisk, with Galarian Stunfisk banned, this is a pretty nice option to have a Galarian Stunfisk Light. You have the ground coverage, you have electric coverage instead of the rock. Like it's basically same role, slightly different weaknesses. You are ground electric as opposed to steel ground, so you're weak to like ice. It's like a Abomasnow, and you don't have coverage for Abomasnow, so it is different from that perspective. But I think Stunfisk fills a similar-ish role in what you need it to do. I already had Swampert. Again, I think the Mud Boys. I think the Mud Boys are always strong when there's not a lot of grass. We'll see how much Abomasnow is in this meta. But if you don't have Abomasnow, there's not a ton that is just going to kill you. Like Dragons will be a little tough. But overall, you're just like neutral in almost every other matchup. Mantine, again, another one of those where, like, you're weak to electric, but Swampert will handle that. But outside of that, like, you're going to have a lot of freedom with Mantine. So bulk, spammy, pretty good coverage overall. And then they recommended Vigoroth. I'm like, I don't want to use Vigoroth. Is there any other fighter in this meta? I was like, okay, Scrafty. So not as safe as Vigoroth, obviously. So in terms of a safe swap on this team, it's a little tricky from that perspective. You don't have a good one. So Vigoroth would be the better answer here as a safe swap for this team. That's very similar to my first team, right? With Swampert and Vigoroth. I think that combo is going to be pretty strong, quite honestly. But, you know, if there's going to be if there's going to be things weak to fighting and a lot of things are attacking Vigoroth, like, you're not terrible in Scrafty. I still think Vigoroth's just going to be way stronger, though, and I feel like everyone's going to default to that. I think the last one here is Gliscor, Wiggly, and Umbreon. Just to show you that, yes, there are fairies in this, and what could a fairy do? Fairy can kill the dragons and darks, right? So you know that's going to be the case. So I expect to see a healthy dose of... We'll see if there's a healthy dose of Wiggly, because there is like Skarmory and stuff and Clodsire. But I think fairies always got a place in this meta. Umbreon, again, there are fairies, but there's not a ton of them. So Umbreon is generally safe as like your fighter fairy is your main weakness. And then I just wanted to put in Gliscor because I was like, okay, Gligar is banned, but how does Gliscor look? Obviously, Gliscor is not as strong as Gligar, but you still have that same sort of wing attack, aerial ace, and then like earthquake coverage that you get in Gligar, just not as bulky. And then Dig is easier to get to and harder hitting, not harder hitting, but easier to get to. And I think probably better stab, not stab, Jesus, like damage per energy than earthquake. So that's it. Like I said, I think if I had to guess what the meta is going to be like, looking at this, I think you're going to get a lot of Vigoroth. I think you're going to get a lot of Abomasnow. I think you're going to get a lot of Dragons and Darks. And yeah, maybe because Steelix and Skarmory are so up at the top there, you'll get that. But yeah, I think it is a little bit of a wide open meta, but we'll see. I plan to play this and Ultra League this week, and because again, if this is on next week with Master League, we're just going to be doing this next week full time. So just want to give, do half and half, get a little, like a taste of this, so I can just come back next Friday and be like, okay, here's what the actual meta was in this cup. So you can change your strategy moving forward. But that's it. Let me know in the comments below what you think is going to be strong. I know we've had this before. I'm almost positive we've had this before. I haven't looked up my past teams, Um, if you want to stick around while I open up my second one here, I can just look at if I have a Jungle Cup playlist here. Because I'm almost positive we've had this before. I have a lot of playlists. I don't think it's new, but I've not seen it on my list yet. Let me just put it in YouTube. There's a little Jungle Cup. Have we not had an open Jungle Cup yet? Really? Because I am surprised by that. There is a little Jungle Cup, multiple little Jungle Cups, but not a big one yet. Interesting. I'm actually shocked. That's the case. Okay, so it's a new meta. We've had little Jungle Cups. I remember Jungle Cup before, but it looks like it was only in the 500 CP range. So yeah, I guess we will test this out and test new teams out because this will be brand new. So that's actually kind of exciting. Anyways, that is it. Thanks for watching. See you guys in the next one.